Good afternoon, friends. I am Dominique DiPrima from KBLA Talk 1580 and LA at Large Activism World. And I'm so happy to see all of you here today inside this beautiful church, the Pasadena Church. So thankful to them for opening their doors to us. And I'm welcoming all of you who are streaming us online at The Conversation Live, which of course you can find on YouTube if you're texting your friends and family, where they can see this information. They can go to The Conversation Live on YouTube. This is obviously meant to bring legal aid and information to all those who need it. It is hosted by the Law Office of Bradley Gage, and it's meant to give you some essential guidance on legal rights and resources that are available to people who have been impacted specifically by the Eaton Canyon, Pasadena fires. Producer, of course, James Farr, and this is in collaboration, connection, in community with the Pasadena Community Coalition, who is a co-presenter of this event today. And I'm really excited to be here because I got to tell you, on my radio show, I'm getting a lot of calls, DMs on my social media, emails, people asking me for legal help, asking me questions I don't know. I'm not actually a lawyer, even though I do sometimes pose as one on the radio. I'm not actually an expert in legal matters. Generally, what I do is I get a great panel like the one we have for you here today. For those of you not familiar with KBLA Talk 1580, we are a Black-owned talk radio station. There's only 5 of those in the whole country, and there's only one of them west of the Mississippi, and that's us. So when you think about all these thousands and thousands of conservative talk radio stations that are framing how we should feel about issues and candidates and you know, our own neighbors, and then you realize there's only 5 in the whole country that are Black-owned. I'm proud to be on the air with one of those. I'm on 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday. And if you download the KBLA 1580 app, you can listen on your phone, even if you're outside of our AM radio range. We were blessed to do a broadcast from this very church a week ago Thursday. And I was so impressed by Pasadena Community Coalition, by neighborhood servants, by so many activists that are just stepping up and doing amazing work. Black Lives Matter, so many others, and of course Martin Gordon, who's here, who is helping to organize this gathering here today. And I think that's the narrative that I'm trying to push out. People are tripping out about the fires, as we should, about what's happening in our country, as we should. But just remembering that we keep each other safe. And I've been in many disasters, earthquakes, fires. I'm from San Francisco, okay? And what I've noticed is when it gets really bad, people step up for each other. Even in LA, where we're supposed to be so superficial and money-driven, when the stuff hits the fan, we step up for each other. And I'm seeing that happening now. And for those of us who are community activists, I know there are quite a few in the room. I see Dick and Sharon from the LA Progressive here. We were built for this. We've been training for this our whole lives, right, Mr. Gordon? This is what our ancestors set us in motion to do, is deal with these moments of crisis and doubt, and to get us through to the other side, and that is what we will do. So I'm honored to be here, and really pleased to get this conversation started. I'm going to introduce the attorneys, and then they will make some presentations, and then any questions you have, you can go up to that mic right there, and if you don't have any, don't worry, I got questions. I got questions for everybody. That's kind of what I've been doing for the past 30 plus years. So we'll start off with Mr. Gage. He's a founding member of Goldberg and Gage, which is now known as Brad Gage Law APC. His firm was selected by Newsweek as one of the top law firms of 2023. He's ranked as one of the top 10 lawyers in Los Angeles presently, and he's been in the top 100 national trial lawyers for 9 years and one of the top attorneys of North America, the whole joint, multiple times. I've also had the pleasure of interviewing him on my show, and I know Attorney Gage to be a specialist in this particular region, the Pasadena-Altadena region, which of course, as Mr. Gordon pointed out earlier, is especially important in this kind of a crisis, because there are many region-specific issues that will impact your decisions. Brad Gage Law represents victims of civil rights violations, employment discrimination, harassment, and retaliation, as well as personal injury cases. Please put your hands together for Attorney Bradley C. Gage.
Thank you. Hopefully the presentation will be ready, but before then, I can just talk to you all. You know, I've been hanging out in Pasadena since I was a teenager, riding races at the Rose Bowl. Every Tuesday and Thursday night, we used to ride bicycles around there. And more recently, you may know of my representing a number of black police officers at the Pasadena Police Department in connection with discrimination claims that we have against them. Steve King, who is here with me, he and I have worked together for so many years now, handling a number of cases, including civil rights cases, and representing students in nearby Verdugo Hills High School that were being attacked because of their race. And he has tried, like I have, dozens and dozens of cases, if not 100 each. We're both members of ABOTA, the American Board of Trial Advocates. And it's important that you have lawyers that have tried cases, that have connections with the community, and that are able to see what's going on from ground level, especially when you're looking at lawyers coming in from all over the country interested in Altadena, Pasadena now, not 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, but now they are. And then we'll still be here interested afterwards. And while I'm waiting for this presentation to come in an official manner, I want to give a few shout outs and thank yous. First of all, to Martin Gordon for the Pasadena Coalition for helping to put this together. We've worked on other matters together. And he was on the news with me just a few minutes ago talking about what's going on in Altadena, Pasadena, which is primarily a black enclave, and how the first responders, who we do want to thank for what they've done that's good for us, but they did not come and warn the residents until it was really too late. Too late to save homes, too late to save cars, too late to get heirlooms. And when you're looking at these fire cases now and the litigation that is starting and about to escalate, you want to keep in mind that this is not just property, but these are the homes, and homes that have been around for generations. Altadena has been a black community primarily for many generations. It's one of the oldest in Southern California, and now it's gone, and it's so devastating, and it makes me so sad to see it. And sorry. Oh, wow. I'm so loud now. Maybe I'll try to put it down and modulate my voice somewhere between too soft and roaring. But when you're thinking about this community and what we're hoping to do with litigation is to restore it, and also to take care of everyone who's been a victim of this fire. Some of you have insurance, some of you don't. Some of you have insurance that's going to cover your property losses, and others don't. What we can do as lawyers is help to make sure you get your full insurance coverage, and also take care of the other losses that are more vital. The losses to possessions in here and in here. Your emotional distress, your physical injuries, the smoke inhalation. All of these are items that we can help to seek through a lawsuit. And out here for the Eaton Fire, well, we got all kinds of stuff coming up, but I'm not sure. That's not the beginning, so maybe we get to the beginning and I'll sort of get to it. But when you're looking at the other losses that everyone has, these are losses that come from, allegedly, we have to say allegedly, Southern California Edison. And Southern California Edison had warning of 100-mile-an-hour winds. They knew that we were having a highly likely fire condition long before it ever took steps to turn off the power. And that's important. And the reason why this is so important is, first of all, it's believed that the Eaton Fire was caused by a transformer, the power line on Eaton Canyon. If they had turned off the power, which would have only been sensible, you wouldn't have had that as a possible ignition source. Also, power lines can help to spread fire, and they can help to make a fire get worse. So again, had they simply turned it off, we would be better off. I'm trying to figure out where I am on this thing, which is tricky, especially since I didn't even see these slides, so I'm a little off, but that's all right. So when we're dealing with Southern California Edison, you're looking at not having the common sense to turn off power lines. And that's such a simple thing to do, and such a simple legal concept of negligence. Negligence is basically when somebody has a duty to take care of you, and they breach that duty and it causes harm, they're liable for damages caused. It's a simple theory, something that we've handled myself for 39 years as a lawyer. There's other claims that also can be brought, such as trespass, nuisance, and these are the kinds of claims that we are pursuing through lawsuits to help to protect the community. So how about if we go to the beginning of this, and then I'll sort of skip over what I said, and I can thank everybody that I want to thank. We have them all up there, and we'll just sort of go from there whenever that comes up. See, technology, you can't live with it, you can't live without it, and I'm trying to sort of go between what we did, and James and I worked on this till midnight last night, and where I am. So if we could maybe start from the beginning, and I'll just kind of go through it and tell you when to skip. See, normally when I do this, I don't have a whole slide presentation. So I just talk about it. But I thought here I was going to be so well put together, and here it is. Fabulous. So Brad Gage Law, APC, is my law firm. Stephen King has King Justice Law and other law firms. We have some brochures talking about both of our firms in the back so you can find out about us more. Next slide, please. I can't even read the names, but you guys all can. What I wanted to do was to make sure I didn't forget anybody and to have their names down. So Here it is. I just go closer. See? A little nearsighted, no problem. So I want to thank Pastor Manning. I want to take for giving us his church here in Pasadena and having us all able to be together. I already mentioned Martin Gordon, but he's a man that should definitely be recognized again. He's with the Pasadena Community Coalition. We've worked together before. We've got LA Progressive. You've seen Dominica here from KBLA. We thank her. And we also have Tavis Smiley, Tamika Kennedy Richmond, and Jazz, MME, Keystone Productions, and On to Spot Live. In addition, we have Black Lives Matters has been here. We had all these great volunteers. I even volunteered earlier. And we had other organizations out on other days like AFTP. Next. When you're looking at the Eaton Fire and you're looking at how to seek justice for the victims and what we can do, you have to look at this mass destruction. And some of these images show just how horrific this fire was. And these are the kinds of images that as lawyers we can present on your behalf to judges and juries to seek fair compensation. So let's slow it down a little bit. When you think about how massive this fire was, there were at least 9,400 structures damaged. Those are homes, and those are also businesses. I'll be talking about the businesses near the end when we talk about smoke inhalation. But businesses, business owners have claims. You've got apartment buildings where the residents have problems and the people that own them. Everyone loses. There's no winner in this. And then we'll go to the next slide. This is a map that showed the damage, and this was done a few days ago. The damage is even more extensive now. It's been a horrific, devastating loss, and we feel so bad for all of you who have lost your homes. I was evacuated. My stepbrother came back, and his street's the only street left where he lives. And we have all here either personally experienced these tragedies or we know someone we love is having these problems. Next. So there are a variety of reasons why Southern California Edison is liable, and I've gone through some of those already, and I can't even read from that far anyway. So, but let's see if I can go a little closer. I mentioned pretty much all these items here. We talk about a contingency fee at the bottom of this slide, and that's important because we as lawyers don't get paid unless we're successful. So you don't have attorney's fees if you're represented. Some lawyers handle it that way, others handle it on a different basis, such as hourly. But we're of the people, for the people, and with the people. And because of that, we are pursuing this on a contingency fee basis. Next slide. And pretty much I've covered all this already as well. This shows you a photo of the suspected ignition source. And it's very useful to have videos and pictures that show how a fire started, because you need to win a case. You don't get paid unless you can win. And not every lawyer knows how to put together a case, and not every lawyer has the same track record. So we've been doing this a long time. In addition to doing our civil rights work, I've handled 2 of the largest class action settlements in U.S. history, each of them for $2 billion. And that involved breast implants, slightly different, but we were on the plaintiff steering committee, and we were representing 400,000 women in that litigation as part of a group of lawyers. And why that's important is you may very well see a big class action at the end of this, and you need to have lawyers that can represent you individually and also take care of you so you're not damaged in a class action. So we have both of those experiences. Oh, so nice. Thank you. One of the other factors of liability against Southern California Edison is the way that they cover over the lines, known as splicing of them. And the problem with the splice is it fails. And with Southern California Edison, regulators have been talking about their problems with not taking care of these splicings and needing reports from them. Back in October of 2024, this was sought, and it has not been provided. And basically Edison said, well, we have so many splices failing, we're just going to go to remediation. But that's not going to start until 2026. That's little help for all of you and little benefit for anyone else for the next year or two. One has to ask themselves, why is it that we don't have this kind of protection? And Martin was talking about this community before, and I go back to it. Why has this community been ignored and left out by the government and by Southern California Edison? And that's one of the things that we want to question. It's one of the things we want a lawsuit to help to take care of and to push that narrative, because Black Lives Matter. And when you look at the way that Southern California Edison has treated us, it has not taken everybody into consideration. And this community, we want a champion for it and to help it to restore, rebuild. And the lawsuit is a powerful weapon in order to help bring about the change and also help the community to get made whole. We go to the next slide. So we thank those first responders that have helped us, but we also recognize those that failed us. And then we also have to recognize the Pasadena Police Department, where we're representing a number of officers there for discrimination, and many of them are at the lieutenant level. So what did the department do? They said, we're not paying you lieutenants overtime pay. They're allegedly angry because we've got these lawsuits seeking equality amongst the police officers. And you had Pasadena lieutenants who were going into burning buildings that were saving people's lives, and then they weren't getting their overtime pay that they're supposed to receive. It's very obnoxious. It's very distressing. And these things all sort of interplay with one another. Next. I bring up the Hearst fire not because it applies to probably anyone in this room. It was in Sylmar, but because it applies to Southern California Edison. And Southern California Edison had similar problems, not just here, and not just in the Hearst fire, but the old Paradise fire as well, where that whole city of Paradise was destroyed. And so when you see the equipment, which by the way, power lines are a major source of wildfires anyways, constantly causing these fires, you just have to ask yourself, why didn't you turn off the power? I switch now to damage from the Palisades fire. Because everyone is in a community in Southern California, and the Palisades fire is very different. Different theories of liability in some instances, and different individuals. But it shares some commonality as well. Just like Southern California Edison, the DWP failed to cut power lines. It also had a lack of water in its reservoirs. And by not having water in the reservoirs, it didn't have enough power for the fire hydrants to work. It didn't have enough pressure. In addition, there was the Metropolitan Water Authority that they could have obtained water from. There was a line that goes over by Sunset in the 405, and that would have given more water to put into the reservoirs. But DWP did not ask for that in time, and they also did not divert water from the Palisades, from other areas, to get enough water pressure in the Palisades, so that caused more houses to burn. Pasadena also had some of that, but to a lesser extent. Just like the DWP, Southern California Edison did not dispatch its crews early enough to help to monitor problems and get rid of problems from these power lines. So when you're looking at the cluster of horrors that befalls Altadena, Pasadena, and other communities, it's one, exactly. That's exactly right. How could it be that they didn't think of these things? And how could they have done this one after another after another? DWP also has some design flaws that have led to demands for accountability by Governor Newsom and the City Council. You can see here the extent of damage from the Palisades fire. Again, it's worse now because it just keeps growing. Next slide. That brings us over to insurance. And I want to first talk about what we have discussed as lawyers and insurance and kind of how we feel about it. There are some people that will have a good policy and a good insurer, and they don't really need lawyers to represent them for that. And then, as we're representing clients, if the insurance company is fair and pays you everything, great, you don't need us. You don't need us to take a fee. But what often happens is the insurance companies do not treat you fairly. They do not pay for everything. They say, well, this is an exception. That is an exception. We're going to pay you 20 cents for this thing, which really costs $2. And we're going to pay you $2 for something that costs $20. And it adds up. So when that happens, then you do need an attorney. And then it is a fight. And sometimes those fights take a short time, and we take a little fee, and sometimes they take longer. And sometimes the insurance companies engage in what's known as bad faith. I happen to be the second in the 3-generation line of lawyers. And my father, who is still around, and still practicing law a little bit, when it keeps him from being bored, he wrote the book on insurance bad faith. Chernoff, Gage, and Levine. So when I started as a young lawyer, I worked in his law firm and I did insurance bad faith work. My daughter who's also a lawyer. She practiced in North Carolina, and she worked for those bad insurance companies until she was able to gain the knowledge of what they do to help those who are victims of them. So, and she mostly was working on insurance defense and construction defect litigation, which is very applicable because you're dealing with a home, you're dealing with a business, and that's what she's done. So when you need us, we're available. If you don't need us, we take care of representing you only against Southern California Edison. There's a couple of different things about homeowners insurance policies that you should know about. You've got coverage A, which is the dwelling. That's for your house. You've got coverage B, which is other structures, a pool, mother-in-law home. Sometimes you don't want your mother-in-law that close, but if you do, that's covered. And also things like a garage. Coverage C deals with personal property. And then you have coverage D for loss of use. And the loss of use is you have to have an alternative place to live. You have expenses for that. Hotels, apartments, food, and then there's also optional coverage. Next. When you're looking at an insurance policy under coverage A, the dwelling, there's three different kinds of insurance. And what you have will determine how much you receive. The problem is, some of these types of coverage will not pay you everything for all of the damage to your home. So you have a replacement cost coverage. That's great. That gives you the guaranteed replacement value of a home in full. Then you have the extended replacement cost, which is what you typically see now. That will cover you, but only up to the amount of your policy. So if you want us representing you, we need to see insurance policies, and we can go through all these things and help you out because they are tricky and difficult to navigate. Then you have the actual cash value coverage, and that gives you your policy limits or fair market value, whichever is less. So if you have $1 million of coverage and your home is worth $1.2 million, you're only going to get $1 million. And then you have other problems such as partial loss amounts, and you don't get everything taken care of. In coverage C, you have your personal property. And I want to talk to you about that for a moment because this is what you need to do to protect yourself and what you need to do if you come with us. You want to identify everything that was in your home as well as possible. First of all, you can do that by talking to your family and friends. This is what was here. Remember our living room? We had this picture up of trees or whatever it was. You want to write everything down. And a good way of doing it is trying to go room by room. You might want to draw a diagram of your house just on a piece of paper, name the room, and then start figuring out what you can recall was in there. You can also use photos and videos of your home. Now, you may not have taken pictures of every place. When I had to evacuate, I was talking with an expert on this stuff. He goes, video, take pictures. So I managed to get 2 rooms when the sheriff knocked on my door so loud that he broke it and said, "You're leaving now, the fire's up the street." So I was able to document a little, but not everything. But I realized we all take pictures in our home all the time of our family and friends. If you go back through your photographs, you're going to see in the background all kinds of evidence of what you owned. And so you can use that to start to piece together and show what happened. Of course, you can also use your credit card statements and any other receipts. Talk to the credit card company in order to find what's going on. Next. We covered that. Next one. Loss of use is coverage D. And again, depending on the type of coverage you have will depend on how much you receive. Additional living expenses include things like increased meal expenses because of not having a kitchen, or out here you didn't have good drinking water, so having to get bottled water, things of that sort. Next. An alternative that exists if you don't want to rebuild or you can't because you don't have quite enough and you're going to relocate, you can still recover the full replacement cost benefits under your policy and then purchase a new dwelling. Now, I like to see Altadena and Pasadena rebuild, the community to be restored, and that I think is a preference. But if you don't have enough coverage, that is something you can consider. What you want to do if you're going to pursue a homeowner's claim, and I would recommend you do it as soon as possible because money's going to probably run out. And first in line is more likely to be first paid. Last in line may not have enough money. I'm in litigation right now, a nationwide case where we had a record-setting result. Sounds great. We bankrupted the company, big company. Now we're in bankruptcy court. If we're lucky, we'll get 40 cents on the dollar. We have a judgment, stipulated judgment. Others don't. And there was an insurance policy. Sounds like we're well protected. I'm not a bankruptcy lawyer, but our bankruptcy lawyer said, well, maybe you're protected and maybe you're not. But we're early on, and we hope. So speed helps. It's also important, and you'll be seeing this in a few minutes, when you get to FEMA claims, because FEMA benefits are here today and they very well may be gone tomorrow. You know, President, well, just let's call him Trump. He has said that he may cancel FEMA. So we want to make sure that you get as much as you can to protect yourself as quickly as you can, because speed is really important here. So we talk about if you are filing a claim, you need to get your entire insurance policy, get this to us, and get a claim filed ASAP. Next. Smoke inhalation is also something that can create a lot of harm. And it's a little tougher case because it's tougher to prove. But here's the problem. You had hardware stores and other businesses in Altadena and Pasadena that had things like paint, fertilizer, cleaning solvents. Those all burned. All those chemicals went into the air and into your lungs. You have stuff like asbestos, lead, methyl ethyl ketone, toluene, xylene. I was handling cases of water pollution from those very chemicals back in the early 1980s. And we ended up trying that case on a nuisance trespass theory and went up against a big company, and then they paid us. Our clients got very well reimbursed. But it was a 7-year process, and they had exposure to different chemicals. So if you've had a lot of smoke, you want to be seen by toxicologists and others that are experts in that field, and we can help in that regard. And that's something no insurance is going to cover, probably, but that's something we seek out of Southern California Edison. Next. FEMA, if it will still exist. FEMA is away during a disaster such as a fire, where the federal government provides aid and takes up where you are missing insurance protection. So I gave you that example. If you have a property worth $1.2 million with $1 million of insurance, that $200,000 you could get from the government, and they provide aid to you. The problem is, it may not still be around. Next slide. See if I can find where that is on here. Here it is. You can apply for FEMA in a number of different ways. And if anyone needs this information afterwards, feel free to email me and I'll just send it to you. So at least the PowerPoint I can send pretty quickly. And my email is brad@bradgagelaw.com, brad@bradgagelaw.com. But you can apply for FEMA online. You can do it through an app. You can call them on their helpline. The number is listed, 800-621-3362. And you can go to a FEMA Disaster Recovery Center in Pasadena. You've got the Pasadena City College Community Education Center, 3035 East Foothill Boulevard in Pasadena. You also have UCLA Research Park, which used to be the Westland Mall on Pico, at 10850 West Pico Boulevard in West LA. I was visiting my mom the other day and drove past it. It's got all kinds of signs. Next slide. You can apply online for an application, and to do that, you want to go to www.disasterassistance.gov and click on Apply Now. You'll get all these different pop-ups and you can follow them. Next. When you apply for aid through FEMA, you need to keep up on it to make sure that they get you what you want and need, and you need to be present for the inspectors. But you want to be careful to make sure that they have their name badge, and also if you have an inspector climbing on a roof, that tells you right away they're not a true inspector. And inspectors never need your bank information, so don't do it. These are things that are going on right now. But what you can do is immediately file a claim with your insurance company, photograph the damage to your property, get the list of your losses together, and get all your receipts together. Next. This tells you the things that you need for an inspector. It's also what we need as lawyers to help take care of you. Photo ID they want, we don't need that, but we do need, just like them, proof of ownership or occupancy, your deeds, your leases. It's a pain in the butt. Going through this is not going to be fun, it's not going to be pleasant, it's a lot of work, and I apologize to everyone for that. And that's whether you use a lawyer or not. Lawyers can take care of some of the pain for you, but it's still a problem. You need names of household occupants, a list of all disaster-caused damage to your property, etc. Next. I talked about don't get scammed. Next. Then there's other sources of public assistance, such as the Small Business Administration. The SBA is quite helpful for individuals who have lost businesses. They give low interest loans, they give counseling, management. I happened to work for them back in college, which was a long time ago. Yeah, very long time ago. And they are a source of providing other funds and relief. And it does not look like Mr. Trump is going to cancel that. But I, again, would urge you to apply quickly for that. Before going on to the end, Steve King, who's an outstanding lawyer, he has some of the other types of assistance that you can go through, and he's going to talk to you for a few minutes. Thank you.
I promise to be short. We're just expanding on your resource, on the resource sections and resources that are available to you. Two of the most important things, and Brad already commented on one, is to act quickly. Okay. And secondly, you want to engage in reliable sources of information. And that's what we're here to provide. Because as you rebuild, you want to make sure the information you're getting is accurate and it's community-based and it's things that are out there designed to actually help you and give you the full scope of the information that you need. I too lost my home at the age of 10. It was a civil war in Monrovia, Liberia. And I fled and lost everything from photo albums, memories. Comes back to me here and again, but I know that the rebuilding process, it could be quite stagnating. So you need to overcome that, get into action, start utilizing these resources while they're there, because you will rebuild and you'll make it through this. Now, the landscape of available resources is changing daily, and we'll have this available through the slide presentation. Many of you know about FEMA and the FEMA programs, and Mr. Gage just covered that. The FEMA Resource Center is now open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. So you can visit the Pasadena City College Community Center, Education Center. That's at 3035 East Foothill Boulevard, Pasadena, California. Today is the last day to obtain SAVE disaster relief cash cards. The California Fire Foundation will distribute SAVE disaster relief cash cards at Victory Park Recreation Center, and that's at 2575 Paloma Street, Pasadena, California. Each card is valued at $250 without a limit of one card, strike that, with a limit of one card per household. As Brad stressed, documentation is key. To qualify, residents must provide proof of residence, such as photo IDs, driver's license, utility bill, bank statements, or delivery receipt. Senator Sasha Perez of Senate District 25 has a robust and up-to-date body of information on her website. Eaton Wildfire Resources, Senator Sasha Renee Perez. And that's sd25.senate.ca.gov. And in closing, I'd like to reiterate our commitment to share as much possible via our social media, websites, Instagram, to really keep this a community issue. As Brad has already alluded to, there's a lot of law firms coming from out of state that really we're concerned don't have the right interest in the community. Because the insurance company, we're hopeful, will do the right thing, but there's a lot more to the rebuilding process. The loss of enjoyment of life, the inconvenience, the memories, the things that have been taken away from you, we believe you rightly have a claim to above and beyond, assuming the negligence can be proven by Southern California evidence. And that's where your individuality matters, and the history matters. And what can we do legislation-wise to make change and to ensure that these monies are not disproportionately allocated or somehow they change our communities, your grandparents' communities. So I know what it is to lose that. I'll be going back to my country to fight for that one of these days. But while I'm here, we're dedicated to help fighting you guys. Thank you.
Check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Please give a round of applause to our attorneys Gage and King.
Thank you.
We do have a microphone here. If you have questions, please approach the mic. It's not the State of the Union, so please don't make a speech. But you're welcome to ask whatever questions you have. They will address them. And of course, I'll fill in the blanks if there's no questions. So if you do have a question, Ms. Kyle, please step up, state your name, and ask your question.
Thank you. This is Sharon Kyle. I'm the publisher and the editor of the LA Progressive. I'd like to thank both of you for providing such a wealth of information, a little bit overwhelming. My question has to do with the amount of information that many of these victims are going to have to provide either to the insurance company or to an attorney. Many people left with just the clothes on their backs. They're not going to have insurance documents or photographs of their homes or pretty much anything except for what they were wearing when they left the home. Your experience with representing fire victims, how does that experience help them in dealing with the recovery of documents that are almost sure to be lost forever?
Right now, if you go to the FEMA centers specifically, and I know in West LA, they have about 50 different booths because family members went there. And those booths, and Pasadena as well, have resources to help you to get missing documents, birth certificates, things of that sort. So I think that is an excellent place to try to gather that. If you have your phone, phones often have a lot of pictures with information on them, so you're going to be able to find some of that information. You can go to the DMV to get a replacement driver's license, and you can go to the federal building to get a replacement passport. So it's a pain, but it's doable. And you're probably not going to get everything, and you may not be able to get it all in one place. But if you go to the 2 FEMA centers first, that's going to give you one-stop shopping as best as you can. You know, they're open right now, I think 7 days a week from the morning till about 8 at night. I'd recommend getting there early in the day and go to as many of the booths as you can, and that will give you the quickest way of getting the information. And then if you go into your emails, you're probably going to have some information about insurance. You might have bank information. Your banking is often online now, and you're going to have to sort of rebuild one step at a time. And I would not want to have to do that. I am thankful that my house survived this fire. It would be devastating, and I'm sorry for everyone that has to go through it. But you're going to need to go through it to make a claim.
That center that you were mentioning is the one at Pasadena City College on the campus,
Yes.
where those FEMA booths are available, and it's free. You can go there and, as you said, start the process of applying for another Social Security card or ID. It's all in one place. The other thing that I've done in the past, which may or may not work for you, if you've applied for something that required you to have an application with a whole bunch of those documents, you may be able to circle back to that agency and get that, get that information from them in certain cases. So that's another sort of forensic way of backtracking and getting your own stuff. And sometimes I think email is great. When you search your own email, you'd be surprised what you've emailed to people that you may actually need at this time.
And if you've done a loan request in the past,
that's the kind
you're
of
going to
thing.
have all kinds of loan documents and tax returns and things of that sort that you gave when you went through that pain in the butt to apply. They now may have that information for you, or you might have it on emails and be able to find it that way as well.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I was talking about. At a certain point, it doesn't matter if you got the loan, if the documents are there, right? So, yeah, you're going to have to be a private eye for yourself.
Hello, hi, I'm Prince Akili from Black Lives Matters, Los Angeles, grassroots, and I have 3 questions for you, but they're real quick. The first question is, you said discrimination was by officers being done, right? And I would like to know, how do that affect the community as well as affect the fires when we have police officers who's being, not connected with our people during this time period?
Well, I think as far as how it's affected the community, Martin Gordon is a man that has firsthand experience of how it affected him and his community, where the fires were raging and the first responders weren't there. They might have been elsewhere, but they weren't here in Altadena. And what that meant is he didn't have time to get out his wife's car and to save it, or to get a lot of heirlooms, because they didn't have warning. You know, he talked about how his wife saw the fire through the door video and called him when he was asleep and got him up. Otherwise, he might not be here to share his story at all. Right. So that is an issue of discrimination and differential treatment. Right. I am representing different black officers in the Pasadena Police Department with different claims of discrimination, harassment, retaliation, racial statements. One of my clients was here earlier, and one of her family members is still here because he was a victim of this fire too. And so when you have claims of racial discrimination and racism within a police department and problems of racial profiling in the community, this is another consequence of being treated as a second-class citizen. That's why I'm doing two class actions against Beverly Hills PD for racial profiling with Ben Crump right now. Right. And it's a very big problem. It's something that I feel very strongly about. You know, this should be a human situation, and everyone should be treated equally, but we know that's not been historically accurate, and hopefully we can keep pushing for change. And Black Lives Matters helps to push for that change too.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, this is not a black issue, white issue, Asian issue. This is a human issue. Absolutely. That's what this is. This is a human right issue. My other question is, when you and a homeowner are fighting against insurance companies, do the homeowner have any type of rights, or do they have any type of assistance or any type of protection while they're in the midst of this situation right here? Or they're just left stranded?
You have a couple of ways of being protected. When you have a lawyer, he or she can say why you're entitled to coverage and fight to get fair and full compensation for your valuable losses. That's your property, your home, your jewelry, your personal possessions, your furniture. If the insurance company does not pay you in a fair manner, we have in the state of California a law called bad faith insurance. It's what my father started. That's why I learned it so well when I was a brand new lawyer. And the book on it is Chernoff, Gage, and Levine, Bad Faith Litigation. So it's kind of a family trait. And what you can do with a bad faith claim is you talk about the fact that every insurance policy has an implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, which requires an insurance company to treat you fairly. If the insurance company keeps jerking you around and does not treat you fairly, then there is the possibility of an insurance bad faith claim, where you get additional damages for not receiving your protection. So that's something you can do. And also, as everyone's leaving, in my office, there's Natalie, we have questionnaires and some pens. I think you can fill out information, hopefully give us all, but at least some of it, and then we can contact you if you'd like to follow up even after today. And I think what I'll do is I'll have her pass that out as we're talking.
Before you go to your third question, I got a couple quick follow-ups to your first two questions. Okay. So in the case of what we see as a possible or alleged racially differential response, whether it be no warnings to get out, or whether it be no first responders responding, is that an additional claim on top of a claim for a victim of the fire, or how does that come into play?
It's part of everything. I think the case name is Richardson. My dad did that case too. So he was doing civil rights before it was called civil rights. But what happened is they were able to show that the insurance company was treating a class of its insureds differently than others, and that class happened to be African American. And so damages were sought and recovered because of that. So it's kind of a crossover between the civil rights stuff that Steve and I have done for years and the insurance protection.
Okay, and then the other follow-up to your question, Akili, is this. He talked about, are you just hung out there as an insured person while you're fighting against the insurance company? If I have representation, am I more likely to be able to get that loss of use, like where I can maybe get, some of my expenses covered while I'm litigating my claim, or how does that work?
Certainly, lawyers can help to push an insurance company to pay you fairer and faster. So that's a benefit. What they're supposed to do is give you at least 1/3 of the amount of money that they're not disputing, and that's supposed to be very quick. Doesn't always happen, but there's formulas that you're supposed to be able to get paid in a fair fashion. When they don't do that, then that's how lawyers can help to push it along and keep you from being left high and dry. And depending on your coverage, while you're sitting, you've got alternative living expense coverage, perhaps, hopefully, then you can have an apartment or something of comparable value that you're staying in while you're waiting to get paid.
Fully. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you again for giving me a good understanding. I learned a lot from hearing from you. I'm going to stand back on the last question because I want to give other people the opportunity, but I appreciate you. Thank you.
If you have, my pleasure, if you have more questions,
yeah, we got all
feel
the
free to
opportunity.
give me a call
for sure.
or email me.
Yeah.
My number is 818-340-9252. That's the office number.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
Okay, well, why don't you just come on up, tell us your name.
Charmaine.
Hi, Charmaine.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, my follow-up question is, while a claimant is filing for the coverage that they're trying to get, and they might need you to push that through like what you're talking about, is your fee still a contingency fee at that point?
We
Or
work only
was
on
it hourly?
No, we only work on a contingency. And the way that we sort of set it up is depending on how long it takes. It starts at a very low amount of 10%. But if all we're doing is helping contact an insurance company to go, here, we're going to take care of you, then we're not going to charge a fee for that. That's a phone call or two, and that's sort of a public service to help protect folks. So sometimes it's just a simple call. Sometimes you just need a lawyer there for an hour or two when the adjuster is looking at your home, and that can be enough to get them to just take care of you, and then, we don't need to take a fee on that. Other times, you're not being compensated and you have litigation that can go for years, and we're not going to charge an hourly rate because it gets costly. Plus, we believe and we're confident in our abilities to help people and seek justice. So if we don't succeed, we've spent a lot of time and money and effort, and we're not getting paid for it. So we work really hard, and we have good track records, good success in order to take care of everybody and hopefully get you full, fair compensation.
So what happens to the ones that didn't have insurance? Because I'm sure that they're,
Okay, these are not just a follow-up question, but go ahead.
yeah, just,
FEMA, while it lasts, can help you in SBA.
If you didn't have any insurance, because a lot of people, if you inherited your home, for example, or paid it off, you don't necessarily have to carry insurance, right? So if you had no insurance, FEMA is your only recourse at this point?
You're supposed to have insurance anytime you have a loan on a home you're supposed to have insurance.
Right, but if it's paid off,
If it's paid off and you're unlucky, you might not, then you go with FEMA, and you have the SBA and other sources of low-interest loans, and you're kind of in trouble. But you also have the lawsuit against Southern California Edison. So that's the other aspect of this. Not only do we help with insurance coverage, but more important probably is we're going after Southern California Edison, and then you get everything if you're successful. All the losses to your home that aren't covered by insurance, and all of your physical injuries, your emotional distress. One of my slides that I guess we didn't end up coming up with is there's mental health coverage, and we've got some resources that I can give anyone that wants where to go. There's Bet Teshuva is one place in Culver City on Venice Boulevard. I know that because that's really a drug rehab place that my family's been involved with, working with. But they also have counseling, and they've opened their doors to people that are victims of the fire, because this is so devastating. It doesn't just affect you with the loss of your possessions, but it also affects you emotionally, mentally, and having the mental health care is quite helpful. And that's one resource, and there's an LA hotline. I just don't remember the phone number, but I'll be happy to give you that information.
Okay.
Oh, here it is. It's on the screen. Perfect, so you can see it.
so, but just to make sure, Charmaine, right? Just to make sure to encapsulate what you said, if you don't have insurance, FEMA ASAP, do that application ASAP while we have a FEMA, and hopefully become part of the suing of Edison. Now there's an LA Times front page story saying, "Oh no, we found an encampment. It really wasn't us." So they're trying to already weasel out of it, but there is a lawsuit against them. And then maybe the Small Business Administration may be giving loans if it's business related or you're doing your business out of your home. I heard one insurance agent, attorney Gage and attorney King, say that you could consider getting a loan against the land in order to rebuild the home. Does that sound far-fetched?
No, banks are happy to take your money and charge you an interest rate if they've got the collateral. And, we've already seen that folks are coming in to take advantage of people, which is quite troubling. You've got real estate people coming in to take advantage, you have lawyers coming in to take advantage, you've got banks coming in to take advantage, and you have to guard against that, protect yourself. Whether it's a realtor, a lawyer like us, or anyone else, you can check around with people that you know. You can look at their track records. You can look at their websites. You can ask people. Here, I represent a fair number of people in the community. You could ask them. And that way, you can hopefully select someone that you're comfortable with. Whether it's us or others, you want to be taken care of, and we want to see you taken care of.
Before we go to the next question, I want to ask Attorney King. You mentioned that you yourself have lost everything in your, home, and obviously you bounced back pretty well here. But what are some of the unexpected things that you had to deal with, not just legally, but also just like personally, that people may need to prepare themselves for in the process of this stunningly significant loss?
For me, it was really just, by God's grace, really believing that, everything happens for a reason. All things work for the good for those that love the Lord. And, your story sometimes becomes somebody else's story. And you just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. While there are resources, lean on those resources. Make those available for yourselves and for your loved ones. Comfort each other. Remember this time, because it will come to pass. But the fact that you have the resources available to you, do not be stagnated. Shake it off and get in action, because that will also motivate other people around you and you'll unite, and you'll start to feel each other's energies, and you'll believe that you can make it out. It's like making it out of the burning fire, but it's okay, because there is a promised land and there is hope. So utilize these resources, get into action, and believe that you can make it through, and you will. And there's a remedy here. There truly is a viable lawsuit. And it takes human beings to understand human harms and to explain that, whether it be to a jury or to banks or whoever it is. You have voices for your community. And we're going to make sure that our community is built even stronger. Maybe it wasn't strong enough. Maybe it wasn't substantial enough. But whatever it is, we can weather the storm. So you just have to believe, use the resources, trust your gut, get out there, get back in action, and protect your community.
If they want to be part of that lawsuit, what would they do?
Contact Mr. Gage's office.
We have a brochure with information about both me and Steve. You guys are, I think it's getting passed around. You're certainly welcome to that. And then you can also fill out a questionnaire to start the process so that we could assist you. Feel free to contact me. I gave out my office number. You can take down my cell phone too. It's 818-731-9353. You can contact me, you can text me. So we're here for you.
Right, because...
Sure. 818-731-9353. And if you call or text me right now and tell me your name and your number and that you met me here, then I'll remember it better.
And we have a resource page that'll be set up with all this information, social workers, mental health workers, how to go about navigating yourself, protecting yourself as a community. And we're here to guide you along.
I want to piggyback on that because of stuff I've heard on the radio and in these streets. Do not say, other people are hurting more than I am. I don't deserve this resource. I've heard that from so many people. Or black folks, for some reason, we don't want a so-called handout. These are disaster relief funds, disaster relief burritos, whatever it is. You do deserve it. And I know so many people... Thank you, but I mean, it just hurts my heart. I was talking to a guy today. He has no business. He's a black man. All of his business came from the Palisades. He's down to making zero. And he's like, yeah, but I didn't lose my home, so I shouldn't really be going to get help. I'm like, are you kidding me? You have $0. There's no food in your refrigerator. We got to not be too proud, or, well, I wasn't hurt as bad as the next guy. Get the help. Before we have another disaster and folks move on to another disaster and you're going, man, I should have got that air purifier, that gift card, that burrito. Like, get the help. That's why people are showing up to help you. Do not be afraid. Do not be too proud. And do not underplay your own need. Because that's why people are here. And I really want to underline that because I know particularly black folks and some of us who are chronologically gifted, as Tavis would say, AKA older Americans, we're quick to say, well, I'm going to be humble. No, go get your help. That's what it's here for.
Hello, my name is Lawrence, and
don't try to make us look short by leaning all down on the mic.
it's good that you got help here.
There you go.
My name is Lawrence, and like many of the individuals here today, I'm part of what's called legacy families that have been born and raised, went to school here in Pasadena and Altadena. And I have family members who have lost everything, from everything to where their home is completely gone to where it's not gone. They're able to do some things. So my original question was, from an administrative standpoint, what assistance could your firm provide? But a lot of that has already been answered, right? Going to FEMA and whatnot. Our president, or Mr. Trump, was here yesterday, and he talked about being able to have individuals get back onto their properties right now. Not 18 months from now, which a lot of people are saying that it may take 18 months before they're able to start rebuilding. Whereas our president was saying we should do it within 24 hours. a week away. So there are different degrees
So
of
you
which
can
people,
die from the
Right, so
toxic
you can die from the
fumes on your
toxic, right,
property,
right.
and then they can come in and take it at a
Exactly.
low rate? Okay,
Exactly, right.
that sounds like a good plan.
So there is no real deadline or plan or definitive date that individuals can go back and start doing their things. I'm curious to know that in between you filing a lawsuit on behalf of someone for their damages, with all the administrative things that happen in between, the insurance claims and whatnot, how much involvement will you have from a governmental standpoint, with it be it with Judy Chu or Kathleen Berger or with the mayor?
It's an interesting,
Los Angeles.
interesting question. I want to add on top, and you can address the two. I know the county, LA County,
Right.
which is not, encompasses many cities. LA County has committed to clearing those lots, which would cost a lot of money theoretically, up to $30,000 or whatever that the homeowner may save. But again, LA County does things on LA County's time. So let's add that to his question about how involved you would be with that whole process.
Because again, the lawsuit will have its own deadline, its own time frame, as well as the recovery.
As
and
well as
people-
FEMA has its own deadline, as well as the construction companies have their own deadline. The Lord has his own deadline. We got a lot going on here.
In the meantime, people are hurting, right? So,
No doubt.
Well, it was hard enough to remember your question and answer it before it had all these subparts, but
Sorry.
First of all, Mr. Trump told us that we could fight COVID by drinking bleach. Not such a good idea. You have different properties in different areas with different situations. Some properties are filled with lead, asbestos, and all other kinds of carcinogens that if you take your family there today, your family may not be around tomorrow. So you have to do what's safe for you and your family. I have a client right now, they had fire damage also from Southern California, Edison and Whittier. And they had really good insurance with Allstate. They didn't need me to do anything. The insurance company took care of them all. And they're rebuilding the house. It's been 2 years. They are living in Fullerton right now in a home, comparable home. They're happy with the home, but it's not their house. It's not their community. And that's with not a huge disaster and with Allstate that when it's paid has been pretty good. It just hasn't paid much. But so you can't rush going back to your house if it's going to jeopardize your health and safety. You certainly want to push it as fast as you can, and the insurance company is your best avenue of getting the quickest return. It won't be full, but at least it will be partial. Then the lawsuit is the way against Southern California Edison to try to get a full measure of compensation and full justice, but that's not going to happen for a couple of years. And this fire is all these fires combined are so devastating, we basically are looking at the possibility of bankrupting the state of California with Mr. Trump trying everything he can to punish us because we voted Democrat and for Kamala. So you're going to see a delay in federal action for sure, state action, even if Governor Newsom may say, I want to fix everything tomorrow. Realistically, he won't be able to. I have family that lived in Hawaii. The Lahaina fire wiped everything out. They're working hard to fix it. They've got people living in hotels while it's getting done. But it's been a couple of years, and Lahaina still looks like a war zone in most places. So realistically, anyone that says we're going to be able to take care of you quickly is just not telling you the truth. They're just trying to tell you what you want to hear. And then 6 months from now, you're going to say, I'm very frustrated because stuff hasn't happened. But insurance If you have a claim and you do it quickly and you document it, you can hopefully get it together. Sometimes we use public adjusters that help to get you damages, and that's the best I can say.
And then back to those FEMA centers, because every single level, right, whether it's the FEMA help, the insurance help, the county supposedly clearing your lot, like in every one of these things, you need to be in their system to make sure that you're in line to get those services. And I like the bleach analogy, Attorney Gage, because it's like, he told you should get back on your property in 24 hours, and all of us really want that. What he didn't tell you is that if you inject the bleach, you might die. But it sounded good.
Which was my whole point, was that there were individuals that, because it sounded good because they're hurting right now. They want to go back to their properties, but there are some real fears and dangers. But again, I just wanted to, two things. One, thank you both for coming here today.
Thank you.
This is a very informative thing. I have your dad's book in my office. Don't ask me why, but I have a copy of it.
Now I'm very curious.
I can tell you about it later, but again, I think that that is helpful for individuals who are going through this to have a realistic understanding as to what the timeframes are, or as to what action breaks down. It shortens the time, but we're in it for a long haul.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you want lawyers that you can communicate with. That's why I gave you my cell phone, and people that are there so that you can go through a process when you have questions, try to get them answered, and have some compassion. I mean, I feel horrible for everyone that is going through this. And Steve, he grew up in Africa and went through Civil War and all kinds of loss as a youngster. And so he certainly can have empathy and a sense of what you're going through as well. So
We just have a couple minutes here. Mr. Gordon, were you going to step up to the mic? I would advise everyone here, if you have further questions, you have the man's cell number, you have his email, lines of communication are open. That's why we're here today. So I would encourage you to follow up and and keep the conversation going. Martin Gordon, who with the Pasadena Community Coalition is a co-convener of today's event. Thank you so much for helping to put this together. And what are you going to take us out with here?
It's interesting. This is something to take us out with. Number one is I want people to understand that a lawyer, an attorney, is not a panacea to all your ills. Give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's. And if it's not Caesar's, then don't give it to him. So there are other resources out there. Lawyers do law. That's what they do. That's their expertise. That's your expectation. Then the one thing I want to end with is the class action lawsuit. Everybody keeps talking about the class action lawsuit. That is not your panacea. Do you know how long, and I want Mr. Gage to maybe briefly talk about, do you know how long a lawsuit of this magnitude will take? Do you know how many attorneys are filing these lawsuits? All over California, coming from out of state, everywhere. And it is important to understand that we want local people here to understand what's going on. But this is not something that may not settle for 5 years. So if you have no other resources, you're not going to FEMA or elsewhere, you're going to be out of luck. So don't look at that person as, guess what, he's my savior. Because for one of these cases, it could take up to 5 years. Get out there, get to FEMA, do what needs to be done, give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and the other where it belongs. Thank you.
Because we are streaming, so we want the folks on the stream to be able to hear you as well. Yes.
That's fine. My name is Robert Corsini. I live here in LA for all my life almost. Resident locally, Northeast LA, Pasadena. I grew up here as well. Two things. Tenants' rights. We're talking about, I kind of want to get a sense of with all this destruction, there are a lot of people who are renters out there.
Okay.
And that's not anything it may not have enough time right now to
So
deal
renters
with
is question number one, and number two?
Tesla batteries. And I just learned a lot about Tesla batteries recently and read about them.
You mean Tesla batteries in a fire, or
Tesla batteries in a fire
general?
cannot be extinguished easily. They take an enormous amount of water, they reignite. They're like fire bombs that supercharge fires.
Okay.
So that's
So we'll get short answers to long questions, to big issues.
big issues.
That stay tuned. Maybe we'll talk about those things on my show or Tavis's KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm not a landlord-tenant lawyer. I know that there are insurance policies for renters, and if you have an insurance policy as a renter, it can provide for, depending on what the policy says, alternative living expenses, other places to live. And the apartment managers and owners are going without rent, and they're having problems as well. And it's 6 months from now, we're going to start to really see the problem in the rental market, how this is just affecting everything, and people that won't be able to pay rent, people that won't be able to pay the banks for their buildings, and banks swooping in, and a lot of homelessness. It's a big problem, and you actually see that in South Africa, in some of the cities there, and it's an unfortunate situation. So that was the first question. I forgot your second one. Tesla. Well, there's been litigation against Tesla for those batteries causing cancer. So you get Tesla battery fumes in the community. You got to be careful about what you're breathing in with that as well. So that's one thing. And the rest of it, I don't know much. All I know is that Mr. Musk made a slogan at the inauguration that was very concerning.
I will say this because I sat in on a whole tenants' rights workshop pertaining to the fires. What they're recommending is that you join or at least visit your tenants' union. Almost every city has one. If you don't have one in your city, there's an LA tenants' union. Look to your local city councils. Some city councilors are putting protections in place. Washington Post had a story today. Rents in LA are already up 20% across the board. That apparently is illegal. The state attorney general says he's going after price gouging. We'll see. So the advice was contact or get in touch with your tenants union. Do not move unless you have to, because once you move, you're probably not going to get a comparable rent anywhere in LA at this moment in time, because even the rich people are getting gouged beyond what they can pay. So if you're in the middle class or working class, stay put. That's what I got. Let's clap it up for attorneys Gage and King. Thank you guys so much for sharing your time and your knowledge with us this afternoon. Let's clap it up for the Pasadena Community Coalition. And of course, the Conversation Live, Farr Enterprises, and all of yourselves. Whatever you've learned today that was of use or of help, please share it with your friends, neighbors, and family. I'm Dominique DiPrima. I hope all of you will check me out on KBLA Talk 1580, and I hope we will continue to do what we do best, which is we keep us safe. Thank
And
you.
you know, Steve was saying we should take a picture with Dominic and James, but I think we should take a picture with everybody.
Yeah, I like that.
I would
Let's
like
do
to
it.
do it and be able to show that it's Altadena Strong, which is Tyson Crutchfield's organization. She's my client. And also Pasadena Strong. And I think that would be kind of a good way of doing it.
So let's all come down here.